Well, good day and welcome to our presentation on how can insurers ride the metaverse trend in 2022 and beyond. And we're delighted to be doing this here for the Asia InsurTech Review Conference. It's a real delight to be joining you remotely here in London. It's me, Michael Mainelli, with my dear colleague, Simon Mills, and we're really thrilled to have this opportunity. Now, many of you might know me. I'm Michael Mainelli. I'm the chairman of Zien Group and also the chairman of FS Club, and we produce a number of reports and things. But over the years, we have produced several hundred research reports on a variety of subjects. We're widely called the City of London's leading commercial think tank, and we're famous for our Global Financial Centres Index, Smart Centres Index, Global Green Finance Index, and numerous reports and, in fact, pieces of software that we have developed over the years. And naturally, we've been very intrigued by the metaverse itself and began a report which was commissioned last year, well before, as you'll hear later, Mr. Zuckerberg decided to rename what was called Facebook's parent company, Meta. Now, what we'd like to cover today is the Meta what? What is this? Or what are we really talking about? We want to relate it to the insurance industry, and in particular, Simon will be covering a report that we brought out, the Metaverse in Insurance, Pixel Perfect. And the link to that is just down here at the bottom left of this slide. And we would encourage you after this presentation, if you are interested in learning more, to read what is quite a substantial 70+ page report. We would then like to turn, as Simon will, onto what might insurers do with this metaverse. And then I'd like to conclude with some observations. So that's the outline of our 25 to 30 minutes. Now, I mentioned the report itself, and this is the cover of the report, Pixel Perfect. And it really goes back to, in fact, a friend of mine, Neil Stevenson, quite a famous science fiction author, wrote a book called Snow Crash that you can see here back in 1992. And the extract from the book, and this is the first mention of the term metaverse, is, so Hero's not actually here at all. He's in a computer-generated universe that his computer is drawing onto his goggles and pumping into his earphones. In the lingo, this imaginary place is known as the metaverse. And Hero spends a lot of time in the metaverse. It beats, as they say here, the shit out of you store it, which was the storage cabins he was living in. So it's a very, very important sort of milestone, this concept from 30 years ago. But it's beginning to become a bit of a bandwagon. And I might point out that this bandwagon began a long time ago. So Neil very much inspired many people. And in fact, here in London, we created something called the Financial Laboratory Club back in 1997, combining financial firms such as the London Stock Exchange, Royal Sun Alliance, the major insurer, Barclays Bank, and a number of others in a group which were visualizing financial risk. And of course, we had the announcement really just at the tail end of last year and early this year about Facebook renaming itself Meta. So I've had enough time here at the moment just sort of setting the scene, but let's see, Simon and I conducted some very deep research into the implications for insurance, and I'd like to hand over to my colleague Simon to cover some of that. Simon, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, hello everyone. As Michael said, my aim in this presentation is to use our recent report, the Metaverse and the Insurance Industry Pixel Perfect, to arm you with an understanding of what the Metaverse is, what its potential applications are, and specifically how its wide-scale adoption may impact upon the insurance sector. So what exactly is the Metaverse? Well, it's been a staple of science fiction since the 1980s. Gibson, Stevenson, and Strauss have all written about it, and it's been a common Hollywood trope. I'm sure many of you will have seen The Matrix. The common theme linking all these stories is the metaverse as a persistent shared space, combining virtual reality, augmented reality, and the internet. But art imitates life. The fact is that the metaverse has already been with us, as Michael says, for some time. Let me explain. Next slide, please. Those of you with children will have no doubt heard of Fortnite. Fortnite is a 3D online multiplayer game set on a virtual island where gangs of children run around shooting at each other. It has over 350 million users worldwide. Last year, the singer Ariana Grande followed in the footsteps of a number of other performers by hosting a live concert using Fortnite as her platform. It's estimated the concert was attended by over 12 million individuals, with millions more watching the recordings after the event. These events are different from television broadcasts as the attendees view them through the eyes of an avatar. And for those with the right equipment, and we'll come to this later, it's actually like being present at a live gig. Despite Fortnite being free to access, the event is estimated to have earned the singer over $20 million in merchandising sales. And bear in mind that much of this was earned from virtual merchandise, that's digital skins for avatars rather than real t-shirts. So to reiterate, the metaverse is real, it's with us now, and people are making money out of it. Now, fundamentally, the metaverse is an alternate space for social commerce, and some people are touting it as a successor to the internet, which is why it's sometimes referred to as as Internet 4. Internet 1 was slow. I'm sure that many of you can remember dial-up modems and waiting a minute for a page to download. It was also static. You connected your desktop to your telephone line. But limited as it was enough to trigger the dot-com boom. Amazon and eBay were founded in 1995, Netflix in 1997. Though at the time, it was a way of renting DVDs online. Internet 2 introduced broadband, and it was a little bit brisker. It allowed media streaming, and it also gave limited mobility to devices through Wi-Fi. Internet 3 was ushered in with the launch of the Apple iPhone in 2007. Initially, bandwidth was low, but 3G and 4G followed, and the mobile devices and means of accessing the internet became ubiquitous. Now, Internet 4 uses new technologies such as 5G and cloud computing to free handhelds and desktop devices from the constraints of processing speed and storage to vastly boost their capability. And this is what's making the metaverse possible. However, next slide, please. Before you start gearing up for the next dot-com boom, this particular patch of magic beans comes with a few caveats. The most important of which is beware parallels between the growth of the metaverse and the growth of the World Wide Web. The first stumbling block is the nature of the metaverse as it currently exists. The internet was established as a not-for-profit endeavor, arising initially from the defense sector. It was subsequently picked up by academic institutions as a method of collaboration, and the World Wide Web itself was created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee in an act of altruism. By releasing the code which created it for free, Berners-Lee ensured that unfettered innovation was unchained. The gates were thrown open to hobbyists and commercial entities alike, allowing the WWW to grow exponentially and find an audience of billions. By contrast, the metaverse as it currently exists is not a universal construct, but a series of walled gardens, closed ecosystems in which all the operations are controlled. Innovation must be licensed, activities are closely monitored, and rent may even be sought from both users and content providers. It's in the interest of ecosystem operators to discourage users from looking elsewhere. So the very principle that lies at the heart of the web, connectivity, is absent. The second issue is that the innovations which make the metaverse possible restrict access. Without high bandwidth, low latency, and high stability, you're sunk. And these are already significant issues for some internet users, particularly in developing nations and remote rural areas. The third issue of that of functionality versus aesthetics. Crisp 3D graphics, Dolby surround sound, and lifelike avatars might be important for video games and music events, but they're considerably less important for other applications. In this respect, it's likely that rather than replacing the World Wide Web, the metaverse is going to sit alongside it, with some transactions, such as online banking or accessing news feeds, being far more suited to the former. Now, the final issue is that of casual access. Currently, the internet can be accessed by a range of devices, from mobile phones to desktop computers, and from a range of locations, from the office or bedroom to bus stops or cafes. To put it simply, you can pull out your mobile and read the news feeds while waiting for a friend. For the full metaverse experience, you need a VR headset and haptic gloves. These are bulky and expensive, and they can cause motion sickness for some users and can only be used in a safe environment. Obviously, one of the strengths of the World Wide Web is its accessibility to people on the move. Remember that television didn't result in the death of radio. Radio is something you can listen to while doing something else. So, given all these constraints, what use might the metaverse actually be? Well, in and of themselves, these issues are going to be overcome. Service providers would be forced to fling open the gates of their walled gardens or lose customers. Connectivity is going to improve, and the clunky tech needed to access the metaverse is going to become smaller, cheaper, and better. And of course, specific uses are going to emerge. I've already mentioned entertainment. Aside from music events, new forms of media may well emerge, such as interactive live plays or virtual tours of galleries and museums. E-commerce in the metaverse is actually beginning to accelerate. Sotheby's have opened a branch in the metaverse in response to the sale of non-fungible tokens, and sites such as Decentraland are even offering virtual real estate. Now, business meetings are an obvious application, and Microsoft and several other organizations are exploring next generation VR and telepresence technologies. And finally, there are specialist applications. These include advanced modeling and simulation, which can assist with engineering, loss adjustment, disaster management, and maintenance. A great deal of investment is taking place in this field. You are no doubt all aware of Facebook's rebranding, but away from the headline, there are a myriad of organizations involved in this space, and we cover a range of the current leading players in the report. Now, all of this has got several implications for businesses wishing to use the metaverse. Firstly, connectivity. As companies are going to find their presence in the metaverse will increase their interactions both with their customers and other services and products online. Secondly, it's likely to change notions of space and distance, allowing a deeper understanding of connections between entities in the virtual and physical realm. And finally, the semblance of quality is undoubtedly going to be king. The look, motion, sound, texture, and feel of digital content may well become more important than the back-end functionality. And this may mean that safety and security considerations are going to take a back burner. Which brings me neatly onto the implications of the metaverse for the insurance sector. Now, our report does this in two ways. It looks at the opportunities and potential impacts to insurers' business models, and it takes a broader overview of the risk universe associated with the metaverse. Let's start with the business model side. The report uses Porter's 5 forces model to unpack the challenges and opportunities, and let's take each of these elements in turn. Focusing in on competitive rivalry, it's possible to see that sales could be conducted through virtual insurance agencies. Haeyoung Kook Life Insurance in Korea has already opened a virtual counseling window in the metaverse. New services could be offered. The insurance professionals that we spoke with were particularly excited about the possibility of creating a virtual underwriting room for underwriter-broker collaboration. This could be used to virtually assess insurable assets and advise on risk mitigation. They also thought that similar technology could be used in claims for virtual damage assessment and loss adjustment post-event. Next slide, please. From the buyer's perspective, clients may want to insure their metaverse assets, such as in-game currencies, virtual real estate, or non-fungible tokens. Specific products may need to be developed for metaverse applications. Several of the insurance professionals consulted flagged up personal data and identity as a particular risk. Next slide, please. Insurers themselves should also consider the services they seek from suppliers. Now, leaving aside the obvious, such as ICT services, the scope should also encompass advertisers who are going to have to consider how to reach a new audience in a new medium. And of course, legal services who are going to have to carefully consider legal risks and litigation in a field with unclear jurisdictions and regulatory boundaries. Next slide, please. With respect to substitution, the metaverse does present some particular challenges to insurers. Claimants may find it difficult to prove financial loss when dealing with an intangible asset such as an NFT, avatars, or digital real estate. In which jurisdiction was ownership registered, and where is the claim being made? How is the asset valued, in sovereign currency or in cryptocurrency? Furthermore, as the metaverse is a new creation, the risks to its users are not fully understood. AI, quantum computing, malware, and the physiological effects of VR are still emergent threats, so setting premiums is going to be difficult until the risks are fully understood. As a result, it's likely that for corporate clients, alternative risk transfer vehicles are going to be used as substitutes for commercial insurance. Next slide, please. Finally, new entrants will inevitably aim to disrupt the insurance sector in the metaverse, and these pretenders, whether offshoots of the online gambling sector or AI-based actuaries, are actually going to benefit from a lack of regulation and oversight. Platform operators may even use their gatekeeper status to restrict competition or charge rent. Next slide, please. Now, I've already mentioned the issue of new risks associated with the metaverse, and these are covered in much greater depth in the report, but it is worth briefly touching on three of them. Firstly, the VR equipment itself brings with it a host of medical and psychological risks, from long-term inactivity to risk desensitization. Secondly, the metaverse is going to present a whole new attack surface for hackers, whether these are state-sponsored or private criminals. In addition to denial of service attacks, theft and vandalism, hackers may well find ways of turning users' VR and haptic equipment against them to steal biometric data or even cause physical or neurological harm. And finally, there are the metaverse's potential impacts on society itself. Recent revelations by whistleblowers that Facebook's algorithms push some users into radicalism sets a really disturbing precedent. Given the immersive nature of the metaverse, one can only shudder at the potential for catering to the vilest, basest instincts of its users. The use of VR and haptic technology could also allow platform operators to collect detailed biometric data on users, allowing unscrupulous operators to conduct behavioral tests, refine responses, and use the data to nudge real-world policy. As a senior risk manager pointed out, the truth is that the state is the ultimate manager of risk, but it's woefully unequipped to manage it, lacking both the technical expertise and political will. It may well be incumbent on cool heads within the insurance industry to counsel policymakers lured by the siren song of this new technology to beware the hidden rocks that may wreck the ship of state. So, stepping away from this potential dystopia, what are our recommendations to insurers? Well, firstly, up your skills base, invest in training and recruit more specialist expertise. Familiarize yourself with the concepts of the metaverse, NFTs and cryptocurrencies. Identify potential risk factors and determine whether it is actually an area of business that you wish to engage with. If you do, then examine the scope for offering new products and services. These could include managing the risks associated with an individual's personal data, managing the risks associated with digital assets, in particular, the issues around regulation and legal jurisdiction. You may also wish to consider offering alternative products by building a brand as a trusted risk barrier. This could include providing professional advice on risk mitigation rather than compensation for loss suffered. And this isn't actually a traditional insurance product, but it's more akin to the services offered by Norton and McAfee. Finally, you should be alert to the synergistic effects of new technologies such as the Metaverse, which, although they may not be revolutionary in themselves, could well offer the potential for revolutionary change when combined with other technology and social developments. Please do head to our website to download the report, which covers all of the points that I've raised today in much greater depth. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Simon, for such a great expose of the report, which was a delight working with you on. I just wanted to make a couple of observations, really based on reactions to the reports over the last 2 months. The first is a lot of people say, well, yeah, fine. I mean, it's a bit of entertainment. We did find some very inspiring things. This is a device called a WizDish, brought out by Rover Technologies, and it was being used, believe it or not, to allow elderly people to walk in an environment with each other while separated by hundreds of miles. So somebody walking in Wales with somebody in London and actually seeing whatever type of landscape here, the Great Wall of China, that they might wish. We saw some crazy ones. I'm not 100% sure about the non-fungible token market in art, but Sotheby's is taking chances and seeing where this might lead. I think another thing is, if you think it hasn't arrived, and it's very difficult to gauge these hype cycles, one piece of most amusing that we found was the Icelandic government and tourist board making fun of the metaverse, which I think is a great sign that it's arrived. After millions of years in development, Iceland brings you Icelandverse, an entirely immersive open world experience. It isn't a single place that was built alone, and it wasn't built overnight. Icelandverse is actual reality. And I must say that Simon and I took quite a chuckle from that. But what would I observe? Well, at the moment, as Simon outlined so well, there are many technological limitations. They're highly likely to be got over, whether it's connectivity or the devices or even some of the biopsychological aspects. But it is creating new psychogeography. So what we would have traditionally seen as a real map on the left, or a minimalized map in the middle, or a highly distinctive amalgamation of the abstract and the real, it's turning out that we can change our concepts of geography. So perhaps I have an insurer alley, and in insurer alley, I as an insurer want to be close to the center, or I as a risk adjuster would like to be close to some of the players in that, and I need to buy space to be close there. Meanwhile, I might also be in a completely different metaverse geography, which is organized, say, by geography itself. So I wish to be in the London insurance market, or I wish to be in the marine market or the aviation market. And so suddenly there are many places, because the metaverse allows us to create an infinitude of universes, where I might find it important for me to be. And so I think that we're going to see something quite akin to a phase that the .com era went through, particularly around the late 90s, which was domain name squatting. I think this is going to be a richer and more complex area here, and a lot of money will be lost and wasted on properties that turn out to be worthless, but the ones that get it right will do well. So have we hit the bandwagon or not? I love this metaverse hype cycle cartoon from Tom Fishburne, which is basically, do we have to have this meeting in the metaverse? Yes, because it exists. And I believe that we're going to be seeing a lot of this over the next decade or so. But there is a reality behind it. And I think your choice is, what's your approach going to be? How high should it be on your in tray? Should you be buying virtual land and building your own metaverse every day? Is it going to be high on the pile, or will you get around to dealing with it one day? At the end of the day, we'll know when our commerce is working, when we in fact have, as we tend to do with almost all hype cycles, have turned what seems like a new, exciting, slightly dangerous, exotic technology into a humdrum utility. And I think that's what the ride that we in the insurance sector are going to be going through over the next 5 to 15 years. Thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to your comments and questions.